As someone with ADHD, I either tend to get stuck in planning mode or avoid it altogether because it's overwhelming. So let's talk about how to master year-end planning and reflection as an adult with ADHD. Now, if you're new to this channel, I primarily talk to ADHD entrepreneurs, but the truth is we're reaching that time of year where everyone is starting to go into year-end planning and reflection. And so this is really just a great video for individuals with ADHD as a whole, even though I'm probably still going to talk about a lot from the entrepreneurial perspective because that's the world that I live my life by. So first and foremost, I 100% understand. I will either tend to get stuck in planning mode and have to pull myself out and move myself into action mode, or I tend to avoid doing the planning until the very last second, and then I scramble to get it done because it's supposed to be done by the end of the year. And so let's break this down. There's a few things we can do to make this a little bit easier. One, to get the planning done in advance so we're not scrambling and putting together plans that don't work as well, but not to get stuck inside of planning. So first and foremost, if you want to set yourself up to be able to plan properly, you're going to need to be able to do reflection first and foremost. In order to put a plan for where we want to go, we need to know where we are, but we also need to know where we have come from. Because when we start to set goals, we have this tendency I don't know if this is just an ADHD individual, but I know that I have this tendency to set really grandiose goals. I'm I can accomplish X, right? Because at this one point in my life, when I had nothing else to do, I did this. And so I'm going to redo it now when I have 400 other things on my radar. So not only is it important to understand where you are today, where you are starting from, right? You can't plan to go, climb Mount Kilimanjaro if you don't even know where you are in the world, because how are you going to get to Mount Kilimanjaro when you don't even know where you are, right? You have to know where you are, but you also need to know where you've come from so that you can understand what you are capable of. Not just where you've come from, years ago, but especially in the past year or so, what you have been able to accomplish and what you did to make that happen. So there are 3 tools that I tend to use when it comes to reflection, and you're welcome to use as many more as you would like, but these are the 3 that I have leaned on for the past 10 years. The first one is what I call the inner CEO meeting. So the inner CEO meeting is actually something that you will start doing at the end of every single month throughout the year. Now I have a single journal that I use, and all of my inner CEO reflections go in that same journal. So at the end of the year, when I'm getting ready to start doing my end of year planning, I have a really easy way for me to actually flip back through and see the recaps of the entire year. So that inner CEO meeting, I'm going to recap the same things each time. First, I'm going to start by recapping how do I feel about the month. This is just basically a free writing exercise. Now you could do this just by listing out the emotions you experienced. You could do this just by actually free writing. Here's what I think. Here's what I feel. Here's where I'm at, thinking over the past month. But the idea is to get you thinking about what happened in the past 30 days or so that it is fresh in your mind for this next 2 parts. So the next piece is you're going to list out what are the lessons that I learned. What are the things that I learned that could be things that you screwed up. These could be things that went really well, but what are the lessons that you learned throughout the past month? The next is going to be your wins. You're going to list out what are the wins that I had over the past month. Now, you may be relisting some of the things you listed in lessons learned, but you are also going to list out things that maybe didn't get listed in lessons learned. Maybe you hit a revenue goal that you've had that you didn't necessarily learn anything getting there, but that was still a huge win. And then last but not least, at the end of that inner CEO meeting, you are going to set your goals for the upcoming month. And when you've done this throughout the year, it makes it really easy to reflect back on the whole year just by flipping through pages. Now, the other thing you can do if maybe you haven't been doing the inner CEO meeting, or maybe you're just not quite into that, you can also just sit down, and I would encourage you to set aside a chunk of time just to do journaling. Not allowed to get distracted, not allowed to do anything else. Get pen and paper so that you're not being pulled off 100 different ways on your phone, but actually sit down and do some journaling and just think through basically the first part of the inner CEO meeting and think through the past year and put yourself back through at least some of the pieces of the year so that it can be fresh in your memory for you. Now, the last tool that I like to use for reflection is mind mapping. So I will usually sit down with a giant pad of paper and I will put key areas of my life, and then I will just mind map out what's been happening. What were some of the goals that I had? What are some of the goals I want to have? And I tend to use a bunch of different colors here because I'm a little crazy like that, but I'll have my personal items in my personal life, items in the business, and then I'll list out here's the things that I accomplished and I'm really proud of in greens, and then I'll have the things that were frustrating in reds, and then I'll have my goals for the new year in blues, just something so that I can see at a glance. But that mind mapping tool can be really helpful for me to reflect back again on what happened and chunk chunk it together by individual pieces of my life. Now, once you've done your reflection, it's a lot easier to get into your planning mode. Now, if you notice inside of the reflection pieces, a couple of them started to get into planning mode, like the mind mapping with setting some of the goals, as well as the inner CEO meeting. But now we can actually really get into the planning session. So one of the most important things to do is, one, I personally have found I just keep a pad of paper on my desk throughout the last quarter of the year. And as I think about goals that I want to work on for the next year, I jot them down because they tend to come to me throughout, I'll be in the middle of something and be like, oh, that would be really cool to accomplish. So then I'll just jot that down. Doesn't mean I'm going to accomplish that next year, but I have basically a frame of reference for all the things that have been flying around in my brain. Then when you sit down to actually set your goals for next year, the first thing that you're going to want to look at is what are your vision and what's your mission. So your vision is what are you building for your company long term? What is the company that you are building up? What do you see happening? Do you want to have multiple locations? I always try and tell people, for your vision, stick to the things that are tangible. It's about vision. What do you see, right? Do you have multiple locations? Are you selling, what products or services are you selling? How big is your team? How much money does the company make each year? Think about what you are building, but then also think about what it is that you're doing for people. That's your mission. Why are you actually here? So with Grow Disrupt, eventually we want to get to where we are running. We currently run 3 events per year, 3 ticketed events per year. We want to get to where we are running 6 to 12 ticketed events per year. We eventually want to have an actual research department as part of the company. There's a whole bunch of things that I want to add on to for Grow Disrupt. But our mission is to create space for ADHD entrepreneurs to reconnect with themselves and so that they can thrive personally and professionally, right? That is why we exist, is to create space for these people to thrive. That's the why, this is the what. So when you're in your goals planning mode, you want to sit down and ask, refresh on these first and foremost, because every single one of your goals should be advancing your mission and moving you towards your vision. Once you have that, now you can actually say, okay, by the end of next year, I want to hit these. Now, my recommendation is to set specific and measurable goals and to have no more than 6 to 9 of them for the entire year. Usually when we start getting more than that, we start having too much on our plate, we start being pulled in too many directions, and it's really hard to get traction on any one of them. So instead of getting nowhere on 40 goals, pick 6 to 9 that are really important and make those the big goals. Now, I always tell everyone these big goals, these should not be something you can accomplish in a single sitting. These should not be something that you can accomplish in a single month. These should be something that you have to work towards over the entire year. So launching a brand new event, writing a book, these are things that's going to take you some time to actually get out there. Now, once you have your big goals for the year, you can break these down into 2 smaller pieces. One is going to be your side step or mini step goals. We'll call these your monthly goals, right? Here's the small step forward towards this bigger goal that's moving me towards my vision, that's advancing my mission. But here's the little step that I'm going to accomplish this month. So if you're trying to write a book, maybe that initial step is get the outlines of all of the chapters put together by the end of this month, right? That's a small step that moves you towards that bigger goal. The other thing you're going to break down into is your baseline. Think about what are the reoccurring activities that you should be doing that's going to move you towards those goals every single week, every single month, every single quarter, etc. So if you are wanting to write a book, then your baseline item that is moving you towards getting that book done might be work on book for 4 hours per week, right? That is something that's being repeated. It's a baseline of activity that is being repeated on either a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that is moving you towards that goal. So once you have your goals, now you can plan to be flexible with those goals. Know that you may change your goals. One of the most important analogies that I received when it comes to goal setting a long time ago is based on a quote from Zig Ziglar that basically says, what you get by achieving your goals is not nearly as important as who you become by moving towards your goals. Or something to that effect. That's probably the Stephanie variation of that. The idea being that you can set the goal, and as you move towards that goal, you may decide this goal is no longer the thing you want because you've grown, you've advanced, and you have a different perspective on life. You may see a new goal that is much more exciting for you. There's nothing wrong with saying, this goal doesn't work for me anymore, I'm going this other direction. So give yourself some room to be flexible. Now, this doesn't mean you can't move forward. You should move towards your goals. If you aren't moving towards your goals, changing your goals, you're just changing them from the exact same place you were when you originally set the goal. You need to make progress towards your goals. But if you've made progress towards your goals and you've realized that's not the one you want, it's okay to change direction. It's okay to be flexible throughout the year. This is why I typically will say, don't go into detailed planning for more than 3 months at a time. And usually try and keep it to about a month at a time because you are going to make traction. You're going to make progress. You may decide it's time to change your direction. There's no reason to spend 3 days detailed planning a whole year that isn't then going to actually turn out. And last but not least, make sure you are taking your baseline as well as your mini goals and you are putting them into some sort of project management process, either into a calendar or Trello or Asana or ClickUp or whatever it is you're doing. Make sure you have some sort of process that is putting reminders on your calendar, that is breaking it down into smaller steps so that you can knock that out, but make sure you are setting yourself up to actually remember that goal. Because what tends to happen for most of us with goal setting is we set the goal, we take that information, we set it aside, we pull it back out again at the end of the year. And we realize we didn't make any progress. I'll never forget when I was a kid, I had this really cute little like red Raggedy Ann lunchbox. And every single year I would sit down and I would write my New Year's resolutions in my on paper, and I would fold it up and I would put it in this lunchbox and I would tuck it under my bed because I wanted to have dreams about, I don't know, I think I thought I would, the idea of it being under my pillow, I don't know. Either way, I would tuck it under my bed. And usually about halfway through the year, I would be told by my parents to go clean my room. And I would be then cleaning out everything under my bed that had gotten shoved under the bed. And I would find that little Raggedy Ann lunchbox and I would pull it out and I would realize that I had not actually accomplished any of those goals by halfway through the year because it was out of sight, out of mind. So put things in sight for you to be able to keep moving you towards those goals. Put milestones into your calendar, put reminders out there, use a project management software that's going to pull you forward, that is going to help break things down and make it easy for you to knock them out one by one by one, because you and your business are 100% worth it. And if this was helpful for you, we do lots of really great ADHD content on the channel all the time. Give us a like, give us a follow, interact with the video, and maybe check out a few other videos on the channel too and see if they appeal. If they do, we'd love to have you join us with an actual follow on the channel itself.